All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. There's that time of the year that every parent loves, but also dreads at the same time. That process that's out of our routine, where we see our children, who we love so much, but who we see our children more than ever, and can sometimes be a little bit draining, a little bit different. And today I have with me Souzan Yaacoub, a childhood educator, over 10 years in the industry, to sort of talk to us about school holidays and to give us some tips and some ideas to help us parents get through these school holidays and every school holiday coming up, and to help us make it as effective as possible and enjoyable for our children. Souzan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
If just starting off, again, as I was just saying, it's something that every parent loves. As a parent, it's so exciting to be able to spend more time than usual with my children. But at the same time, you being a parent yourself would know just as much as anyone else, it can also be really draining as well. And also because I think most parents normally don't really know where to start. So I was hoping today we can talk about that and sort of share some ideas and some tips. And as an early childhood educator, I'm sure you probably have a few of them, being around children as often as you are.
Absolutely. And I know how much it changed when I became a parent myself, as well, because you just really, like you said, you really look forward to that time. You really want to spend more time with your kids. And then things seem to kind of go south very quickly sometimes when they are home. But it is a time to be cherished, and it is a time for us to slow down and really enjoy that time with our kids. Yep. So it's definitely it's also a mental process, I think, that we need to prepare ourselves for as well.
Yes, because they grow up so quickly. And I know every parent says this. And before we even had children, people say to us, spend time with them. They grow up so quickly. And we're like, yeah. But when it actually happens, it's so surreal, isn't it? Because one second they're babies, next second they're walking, next second they're taller than you. So Absolutely. My daughter's about to go into high school next year, so this has been really highlighted for us this year in particular, that she's really not our little baby anymore, and she's going to have her she already does have her own life, but even more so, coming into teenagehood and all of that. So it is really, but there's even at any age, there's so much to cherish when we're together at home. Yes. And if we can sort of just start off with some of these, some ideas that you have, or just some, the first question I probably have is it worth planning out school holidays or just winging it? Because we sort of think, yes, let's plan it, but then we end up just winging it, which I don't know is as much of a good idea.
Yeah, so that is a great question. Actually, it is a really good question. And I used to be of the mind, whereas I had to plan everything to the nth degree, and I wanted to fit as much activities in as I could. But then I realized that probably wasn't the best approach. But then just winging it too is not always work out, because you get to the end of the holidays and you think, there's so much more I wanted to do. So I think a nice balance is good. Possibly have a list of a few things that you would like to do with your kids. But also remember that there are times when they're tired, you're tired, and sometimes just being at home and playing around the house is just as rewarding as doing something outside.
Yes, that's a good point. So you don't actually always have to leave the house and take them somewhere.
That's exactly right. And, and we forget that is spending that quality time with our kids. It's not always about the experience of the bigger, better thing, but that quality of what we do with them is the really important thing. And if we just look back at our own childhoods and at our own memories, sometimes it's the simplest things that we've done, or the simplest, just playing outside with our neighbours' kids, playing Scrabble with our parents, or even just watching a movie together. But it's that feeling of being relaxed and being together as a family that it imprints the memory on our mind.
Yes, because I actually read an article, this was probably a few years ago now, saying that it's actually good for our children to be bored.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. There's a lot to do with that, and creativity and problem solving, and really getting those cognitive juices happening, or their brain activity happening. Absolutely. I think we are too quick to give our children activities these days and not just allow them that space to be.
Yes, and if we can sort of, I guess we'll start off with going
Mhm.
outside the house and going places.
Yeah.
Can you share some ideas? And because some of these things, some parents may have already do regularly. Some things they probably haven't considered.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And if you're like us and you're a working family, and especially this year has been quite difficult as well. We always look for sort of low cost or free activities to do, but
Mm,
in honesty. And from an early childhood perspective, these are the more beneficial than going somewhere where there's a lot of artificial stimulation. So, we live in a country where we're so blessed to have beautiful green spaces around. Start with your local park.
yep.
Um, Often, a lot of us have sort of forested areas around our houses or close by or within a half an hour drive. So it's nice to look at your local area. And I mean, sometimes we do a Google map challenge where we look at the Google Maps and try to find a little area that we can go to and go and explore it. And, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but the
Yeah.
experience is fun all the same. We just pack a picnic and off we go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And when you go to a forest, I
Mhm.
mean, can you share some ideas? I mean, this is probably for my own benefit as well. Like, I love going to
Yeah.
the forest and taking the kids, but when we get there, the issue is that there's no swings, there's no slides. There's
Yeah.
maybe a bit of space to kick the ball around, but that's about it.
And that's the benefit. Sometimes when you're not used to it, and especially as a family, if you're not used to going to those places, you can look at this space and think it's so barren. But when you just sit and relax for a little while, you realize that there's so much beauty, and the kids then start playing with things,
Yep.
running around the tree, or if there's boulders around, that provides hours of enjoyment, and
Mm.
modeling those things to your kids, picking up the leaves and observing those and trying to see, the little insects that are crawling around. But a good place to start, you could take your own little explorer kit with you. So you can just make some little binoculars at home before you go from, your kitchen cardboard rolls. You can take a magnifying glass. You can take a clipboard and some pens with you. I know my daughter absolutely loved that as a kid, and she'd take her little explorer kit with her. And it just opens up such a world of possibilities when you get there.
Yes, that's so true. I think I'd enjoy that as well. And we can even like and you can talk to the kids about, I guess, I don't know, just trying to find bugs or, what they see around them.
Yes, absolutely. And actually a good place to start. Nature Play Australia have a great website,
Okay.
and they've even got a little passport which you can download. It's a Nature Play passport, and it gives you some great ideas as parents where to start and little activities for the children to do outside in nature. So that's a really good place to start.
Okay, sweet. That's good. And what about day trips going places? Because I mean, the issue with
Yeah.
day trips with me is, and again, whoever's listening to this, I mean, who is listening to this is going to have different,
Mhm.
they're going
Family
to,
situations. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
different ages as well. And
Mhm.
sometimes the long trip can be an issue if you've got like a 1 year old or a 2 year old, or I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't matter what age they are. I think children at different ages will get bored and just drive you crazy anyway. But can you give any tips on that side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, and I think it's really important to work with what you've got as a family. Sometimes we listen to things and get ideas about, oh, we should do this and should do that. Well, you know what? The only thing that you really need to do is what works for your family. And we know
Yes.
as our family, for example, 1 hour is our absolute limit. We
Yeah.
can't really go for longer than that. My daughter gets, even as an older child, she gets a little bit agitated, and I think she feels a little bit car sick, because they have to sit in the back. So choose a place that is close by and within your family limit. Take some snacks with you, and I think the two is to enjoy the journey. If you're
Yes.
going along and you think, oh, you know what, it's actually time to stop. Find a little spot to stop. It might not be perfect, but that's okay. You can get out, have a little snack, have a drink, just refresh, and then you can be on your way again. And I think playing those age-old games in the car, like I Spy or, little things like that. If you've got slightly older kids, we started playing a game where we would look at the number plates of the car in front of us. And
Yes.
we would try to come up with a word for each letter, and secretly they're kind of learning their literacy as well as getting entertained in the car. But and then, when you get to that day trip, just make sure, we always pack our own. We do, sometimes it's hard getting to a place and you don't have, your water or your food, and everyone's getting a little bit, a little bit rowdy. So it's kind of nice to be organized, I think, when you're going. Again, every family is different in their situation, but day trips are a fantastic idea for holidays. I think, once you get out into nature, you can all sort of sit down and relax. And again, we live in such an amazing place. We are so fortunate that we have so much to explore.
Yeah, so true. So true. And I know museums and galleries.
Yes.
They're always handy.
That too, yes, especially obviously, if it's a summer school holidays, it can get quite a bit warm or stormy on some days. And those are really amazing resources, again, that we've got at our disposal, the art galleries and museums, which seem to be in abundance of, and again, be organised with a little snack and, as you go and explore those places, and, just say, okay, it's time for a little break, and it's nice to just slow ourselves down, have a little break, and then go back in for a second run.
Yeah, that's it. And you know what? We only discovered this about maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And maybe we were the only ones that didn't know, but during school holidays, the art gallery, museums, they tend to have a lot of activities on for the kids.
Absolutely. There's so many fantastic resources put on by local councils and state councils. And, if you get onto your local council's website, or, there is often those galleries' websites and the museum's website that will tell you what is happening. And a lot of them are for free, and such fantastic resources.
Yes, good point. And another tip I'd like to share is taking the kids on the bus. Because, because I remember, even to this day, they still love catching the bus.
Yep. Michael, that is such a good point. We always say some days I'm just like, let's be a tourist for the day, actually just exploring your city as if you would, and, in your local area, there might, often councils have a free kind of city hopper style bus or ferry if you're lucky enough to live near a river or the bay. Yeah, so there's often really amazing things to do if you put your tourist goggles on.
Yeah, that's so true. And what about at home? What about being at home? Normally, the first call for most parents, unfortunately, is the TV or the iPad.
Yeah.
Or just putting them in the backyard and locking the door and running inside to have a coffee. But what else? Can you help us get a bit more creative?
Absolutely. And you know what? No kid will say no to good sensory play. And what do I mean by that? I mean, and it doesn't have to be anything special, just things you've got around the house. You can get a big container, and I will just preempt this by saying, find a safe space. Find a space where maybe out on your deck or out in the backyard under a shady tree, where it's not going to be too much a hassle cleaning up. Put a big tub there. Put in some water. Water play is fantastic. You can put some plastic plates and cups in there. You can put some, leaves. You can put some shells if you've got them. You can even put things like, if they've got plastic animals, like dinosaurs, or if you've got some plastic fish, or, any of that sort of thing that doesn't get water damaged. And kids really, really love to do that. And don't be scared of letting them put some sand or dirt in and make mud. And I know we went through a phase once where all the kids wanted to make potions, they would put leaves in, and they absolutely love it. And the problem solving that is going on in their mind is actually very beneficial for them as well as they move through life. You've also got things like rice. Just put some rice in and watch them play with it. Again, you can just add a few different tools that you've got around the house. Or some toys that you add around the house. Another really great one that we love is corn flour and water. Feels amazing, and you can put a few drops of food colouring in there and make slime.
Nice. Oh, slime. How much do kids love slime?
Absolutely.
And what about, I know the other thing is cooking. Cooking's a big one, actually.
Absolutely,
But at the same time, it's, as a parent, you sort of get scared because, they're going to trash the kitchen or hurt themselves.
hmm Yes, cooking is a big one. And I'm guilty of that. Of initially I would be, very hesitant to do it. But then I had to, again, change my own mindset. I realized that, okay, if I'm going to do this experience with my child, it's not about the outcome. I had to sort of stop making it about the outcome and make it about the experience. I think once you go into the experience knowing that it's about you bonding, and, there's a lot of teachable moments that you can have with your child in cooking, counting out the spoons that are going in or the cups, fractions, looking at half cups and quarter cups.
Yes.
And it's just amazing. And again, it's a sensory play. Let them put their hands in there. It doesn't matter. You could have even, prepared some cookies the day before, like, here's some I've prepared earlier, and make that cooking experience just one to be really enjoyed and cherished. And I think kids will remember it for years to come.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And
Yep.
anything indoors that isn't so messy?
I knew you were going to ask that. Absolutely. I have a really, really great one to, apart from, obviously board games and things like that you can play with your kids. Kids love cubbies. And I know you're going to say, yes, it is a little bit messy, but, with mess factor, I think it's not so bad.
Nah, it's good. It's good.
You can kind of get a little cubby up there, but also setting up a dramatic play area. Go with your own children's interest at the time. Really notice what they're into, and kids are going to engage a lot more with things that they're interested in. Whether it be setting up shop or setting up a toy store, for example, or setting up a post office. You can, pretend that you're writing and posting letters. It's really amazing, and so much educational kind of, again, I'll say that word, teachable moments within those scenarios.
These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a free 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au. And the other thing that crosses my mind a lot is the chores around the house.
Yes.
I've heard conflicting opinions. Some say that chores are bad for children because, you need to just let them be kids. And then there's the other side of teaching them responsibility. And there's also the concept of having like a point system or a reward system. That's something we tried to do a year ago, but then we talked to a friend of ours that said, no, that's really a bad idea. What's your personal opinion on it?
Yeah, interesting. And all those points have validity. And again, it also depends on your own personal family situations and just the disposition of your own child.
Yes.
But bringing it all together, it's approaching it from a different way. It's not a chore. You are helping in the house. Children need to feel like they're part of the family. So absolutely, there is age-appropriate things that kids can do right from when they're probably 3 years old.
Yes.
Right up until, and it creates a good habit and a good association. So it's not so much, oh, you need to do your chores. It's, I need your help with this now, darling. This is your time to do this. Can you please set the table? And you know what? Kids actually love feeling like they're helpful. And sometimes younger kids want to do what mum and dad are doing. They want to put a stool and wash the dishes. Let them. Give them some plastic things to wash. They absolutely love it. And then as they get older, it's more of, okay, it's your turn. Okay, you need to put your washing away, or but also kind of make it a little bit fun and make it just normalize it. It's like, mum will do this, you do that, or let's do it together. Next time you can do it by yourself. Also sort of prepping them and getting them into it. Again, I find so much of this comes back down to our own sort of mind frame and mental attitude about it. And if you look at it from a position where you're helping your child, you are actually helping them be a better person. You're helping them be more resilient. You're helping them look after themselves. You are being a parent to them. You're modeling to them the right ways to be. And I think, sometimes we're like, oh, I just want to do it because it's easier for me to do it. But that's not then imparting, those right values and family values. And you know what? Children more than ever need to feel like they are part of this family. They need to feel like they are part of a family and a group. And doing, well, let's call them chores, but doing work around the house and helping is definitely a really big step towards that.
Okay. Okay. And with point systems, reward systems?
Yeah. Okay. Again, it depends on your child's motivations. Some children it works for, some children it doesn't. Some
Okay.
children just really need an intrinsic motivation. They need to know that they're doing it for a purpose, in regards to, point out why it is beneficial for them to do it. But some kids are motivated by, my child is so motivated by money. I hate to say it, but if there is money on offer,
she's there.
She's there.
She could be a future financial planner.
Absolutely. I have no doubt that she's going to have some sort of financial future. She is able to save, she is able to set a goal, and she is able to, so coming back to that, tying it in, it is actually good to teach them that. It's good to teach them to have a goal and how to work towards it. Yes. Because sometimes, our society, as you know, we are so, what's the word? It's just swipe your card and off you go. You've got what you want. Instant gratification, that's the word I'm looking for. And we need to teach them that there are steps to achieve those goals. Again, you're imparting a resilience in them. You're imparting a wisdom in them, that will really carry them through their years. Instead of being disappointed if they can't get something, they learn the value of working for it, and as parents, we just want the best for our kids. We want to give them everything, but again, that's not helping them, so if they want something, let's help them and use this point system, but for a reason. The rewards for a reason. Get them to set their own goals and then get them to achieve it.
Okay, so accountability, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? I do want to say something about real money. We hardly ever see it anymore.
Yes.
But it is, even if it's play money or even if it's tokens that you work out with your kid, it's really good for them to handle that. And I see it in schools all the time now. Part of the curriculum is still actually working with coins and money, but a lot of kids have never even seen it before. So it's not only just for that. I know some people say, oh, that's old fashioned. But my point is, it's actually showing them the value of money. You can't see the value of a saving when you've just got a credit card. They can't understand that concept. They need to visually see how to add that up. So, if you're doing that at home with your dramatic play area, say you've set up shop. Lots of kids love to set up shop. Get them to put values on those things. Get them to write out a little card that says this is $1, this is 50 cents, this is $2, and then they can have they've got $50 or $20. What can you buy with that?
So, and that's something us as parents can get into as well.
Absolutely.
And speaking of parents. So just to talk about us now for a second, what are your tips on dealing with stress and the craziness? So, because I'm assuming, apart from being a parent, as with your qualifications and with your experience, you're used to being around children all the time. Like I know, for example, when I go to pick my children up from daycare, you just look at the educators and I feel sorry for them sometimes. You can just tell they're just mentally drained. So as a parent, are there any tips that you can help us out with to deal with it? And also, I guess, to communicate as effectively as possible with the children, because as parents or as humans, as we get angry, it's very easy to raise your voice, or, we don't want to let out our frustrations on the kids. So please.
Absolutely. And as you know, as a parent and even as a teacher, it can just be a bad cycle because, when one person gets heightened, the next person gets heightened, and can be a very bad cycle. And if one person doesn't break that and calm it down, it leads down the sort of the wrong path that's not beneficial for anybody. The hard way I've learned, again, it's about our own sort of mental frame. But let me say, that's easier said than done. But let me say, I'm a huge advocate for outdoor play, and nature, because nature has something in it that automatically and naturally calms us down and calms our children down. But we just have to take the time to stop and actually notice it. When we are getting really stressed and heightened and we're thinking, oh, there's so much to do, and oh no, stop making that mess. And you know what? Grab a picnic blanket, just go outside if you're lucky enough to have a little yard, or, often we have most places in Australia have a park close by. Just grab a picnic blanket and go and lie there, and just at first your brain won't let you relax. And I'm telling you that your brain will not let you relax. But after a while you realize, oh, actually, hang on, I am calming down. The kids are playing nicer, and again, if you're at home and you obviously don't have the opportunity to go out right at that moment, it's taking that step back again and modeling to our children that, okay, you know what, I have to say sorry, I got really angry then, let's start again. Let's both of us take some deep breaths and let's work out what it is that we need to do together to move forward through this, if that makes sense. Sometimes it's hard to put into words, but if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And it sounds a lot more healthy than relying on a glass of wine. So yeah,
which is okay too. At the end of the day, it is fine. But absolutely, if you can keep yourself, all those things in perspective, and it is hard to do, as it is so hard to do when you're in the middle of a situation. But I think what's really important too is to not beat ourselves up about it a lot. I think if we can model to our children, that's even more important, because anger is a natural feeling. Getting frustrated is a natural feeling we are going to in our life. But just to be able to find a strategy, a strategy that works for you, whether it is putting the radio on and dancing. Sometimes, we've discovered this recently, and I'm like, you know what, I'm feeling so stressed. I'm feeling like everyone's doing the wrong thing. I'm going to step back, put the radio on, have a little dance with my family, as silly as it might be. Let's have a laugh, and it just breaks the tension. Something else might work for your family, But again, it's just kind of, and then modeling, and then actually being brave enough to say sorry yourself to your child, saying, hey, obviously it's age appropriate too as they get older, but even when they're little, you can still do it. You can say, I'm really sorry, let's start again. And hey, let's talk through this. What's going to work for you? What's going to work for me?
So true. The other thing that we sort of focus on and sometimes, and that finding ourselves on a lot, not just during school holidays, but all the time. But I find during school holidays, the children are around more, are our phones. So, and I guess it'd be good to have this discussion together briefly, because I know you're not an expert on technology, but it'd be good just to get your thoughts on that, because I think as a parent, it's, like we find ourselves on our phones a lot as it is, but I think maybe as a child, I think it's important to just maybe put your phone somewhere and maybe put it on silent or turn it off for at least half the day or while you're playing with them.
Absolutely. And I know that, all your listeners will also relate that it is hard to do. We have become so reliant on our phones. They're our whole life. But it's like any habit. It's almost like you have to consciously do it and break that habit. I mean, we have a big rule in our house. There's absolutely no technology in the bedrooms. So if we go in to play in there, there's no technology. But I've also had to train myself that if my phone rings or I hear a message beep, I want to model to my child that that's not an emergency. I can let that go. That's okay, but absolutely put it on silent, put it away somewhere. It wasn't that long ago when we didn't have mobile phones. And, people couldn't get us all the time, and it was okay. The world still revolved.
And we were able to give our kids that attention as well.
You know what, Michael, you've hit the nail on the head there, and that's what it is about. Our children are feeling more and more alienated. And I mean, I can quote research, but I think people in their heart know it's true. When you are talking to a child, they know when you're not focusing on them. They know when you're not giving them your 100%. When was the last time you really looked into your kids' eyes and let them break the gaze? Think about that for a minute. And, that is so important for them. And as they head into life, they're young now and they're still under our protection. But as they get older, they need to still be able to feel that love and connection. And this is the time for us to build it. And putting that phone away for a little while, and there's amazing things you can do on your phone these days, right? You can put, the do not disturb, and it actually sends a message to whoever they're ringing you to say, oh, I'm just, busy for a few minutes. Don't disturb me for now, or whatever it is that you need to do. But just think about it. Aren't our kids so much more important than any phone call that's going to come through?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Couldn't agree. And a tip I actually heard this was a while ago, I heard this tip. This is just phones in general. And I think the question was asked saying, if you were laying down in bed about to sleep, or you've just woken up in the morning, would you really want some strangers, or would you really want your friends walking through your bedroom? And I mean, most of the time the answer is obviously no. And, and the point that person was trying to make is, then why, when you wake up in the morning, do you quickly go on your phone, or before bed, why is Facebook or Instagram the last thing that you're looking at? And I think the same thing applies with kids. Like when you're with your children, would you want a stranger, or one of your friends, or someone that be there with you, or would you rather just have that one-on-one time with your child, or that family time? So
yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It's such a visual. That is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And it also ties back in with that stress you were talking about before.
Yes.
We don't realize how much this is really heightening our stress. Our brains are trying to do, and if we just come back to being in the moment. And I know there's so many things now about, being in the moment, and what's that buzzword these days, being mindful, the mindfulness,
yes.
All it is about being in the moment and actually focusing. And, again, I'll come back to something you said right in the beginning of this podcast. You said about, those years slipping away so quickly from us. And if we can just take the time to be mindful and being in the moment with our kids, you will find that time will slow down a little bit. I found this both in my professional and my private life, being with young children sometimes really brings that perspective, and just sitting with them and listening to them and slowing down to their time frame just makes that day longer. And you just think, wow, this is amazing, and I've actually really enjoyed this, and you feel calmer yourself.
Yeah, such good advice. And it's not rocket science, but it's just something that sometimes we need to hear.
We all need to hear it. And, I know I'm saying this, and I need to remind myself of this all the time, because it is just what's around us, isn't it? And we've all got phones in our hands, and we've all got so many different ways of communication, which can be beautiful in some ways. Yeah. But like anything, it's got to be in moderation. We've got to learn how to put that aside, especially for our children as they're growing up right now in these very important years.
Yeah. And lastly, resources, where to get information from. You've already mentioned Nature Play, but are there any others that you can think of that people can use? I know each city probably has their own Facebook group or website, but
that's exactly what I was going to say, because a lot of councils, or each city probably has a little community group that puts up lots of resources for their community. Yes. Nature Play Australia, like I said, is a great place to start. Even I wouldn't say Pinterest, but sometimes those things become really, I don't know, a lot of it is more advertising these days, but there are great sort of, if you just type in sensory play ideas, there's that you could get some really great things that you can have a look at. I think KidSpot is probably an Australia-wide thing, kidspot.com.au.
Yep. So KIDSPOT?
Yes. And again, if you just put those things, like day trips close to me, or, forest walks close to me, or parks close to me, I think we've got, again, technology is not a bad thing. Here's one place where it's really good, and you can get those resources at your fingertips.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you so much. It's amazing advice. And to be honest with you, I'll probably use most of that advice myself. And lastly, I need all my episodes, I have some sort of dad joke at the end of them. So today's well, what's orange and sounds like a parrot?
Ooh, I don't know. Tell me.
A carrot.
Very good. I love it.
She wasn't too bad. I might even use it today. But thank you so much for your time, Susan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael, and all the best with your kids on the holidays.
Yeah, thank you. I'll need it. Trust me. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.